Hey everybody, Johnny here. In this video, I wanted to go over how I created these frame assets so that I could quickly add them to my scenes, with the only job left of going to each one and assigning it a new image. The process was relatively simple. I wanted to show you how you could do it so that you could get this done yourself. Or if you want to, you can visit my Gumroad and get my pack of 187 frames for only $1. But let's get into how to create these frames yourself. The first thing to think about is how you'll model them so that they'll work well in the asset browser. If we have this Suzanne model and then place it on the ground plane like this, and then mark it as an asset, if we were to create a cube and go to our asset browser and look at our current file, if we drop this Suzanne on this cube, it's going to align the bottom to the cube. Because of that, we're going to want to model our photo frames laying flat on the floor. That way, when we drag them in from the asset browser, they'll line up nicely on the walls. Now let's model our photo frame. The first thing you're going to want to do is come up with what type of frame you want to make. If you do a Google image search for photo frame profiles, you're going to find some images like this. This is what you're going to want to get the most realistic looking profiles. And one thing you're going to want to look for is ones like this one that have measurements already on them, so you can line them up and make sure that they're realistic size-wise. I'm going to go ahead and use this one as a template. Now I'm running a plugin called Image Paste, which I'd recommend you pick up, but this plugin will let me copy an image like this one, go into Blender, and paste it. This puts it in as a reference image. The next thing we want to do is size our image so that these profiles are the correct size. Let's go ahead and do this one. So as we can see, it's 3/4 inch by 1 1/16 inch. The way I do sizing is like this. I'll add a cube and open my end panel. With my end panel open, I'll adjust the size of my cube to match the size that I want. In this case, 3/4 by 1 1/16. So here, under Y, I'll put 0.75 inches. And under my X, I'll put parentheses 1 plus 1 divided by 16 parentheses inches. Then I'll press Ctrl A to apply scale, and as you can see, it's gotten very small. So I'm going to take this image and shrink it down, take the cube and bring it down here. Then I'll just adjust the image until this profile matches up with my cube. That looks pretty good. Now that my reference image is correct, I want to lock its scale so that I can't change its size. And then, since we've got our sizing out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my sizing cube. With my image selected, I'm going to go to my image tab and set the opacity to about 0.5. Then in my outliner, I'm going to go to this filter, enable selectable, and then make my image unselectable. Now, it's truly a background image that I can't mess with, and it's the correct size. The next thing I need to do is to trace this profile. I'm going to do that with a Bezier curve. For now, I'm done with my reference image, so I'm going to hide it. I would suggest making a duplicate of your curve just to keep it safe. Take the original, and I'm going to press F3 and type in convert. I'm going to choose to convert this to a mesh. So there we go. I'll drop into side view and extrude this out. The next thing to do is to add faces to the ends. So I'll simply select the edges on the end and press F. Select the edges on the other end and press F. Now I've chosen to model the sides of my frames as 4 separate pieces, but of course you could do them all together and merge them if you want. But our corners are going to need to be cut at 45-degree angles. To do this, I'm going to use the shear command. With one end of my piece selected, I'm going to press F3 and type in shear. And then for a 45-degree angle, it's a value of 1. Now I'll do the same thing with the other side. I'll press F3, choose shear, but this time I want it to go the other way, so it'll be -1. Now that we have our piece cut with 45-degree angles, we can duplicate it, rotate it 90 degrees, and we're going to join it with this first one. With both selected, we'll press Ctrl J. I'm going to go into edit mode, select one point on one of my pieces and press L to select linked. Now I've got all the vertices of this piece selected. If I zoom way in, I can get these lined up as close as I want them. Now's the point where you need to decide what size frame you're going to make. Let's go ahead and make a frame that can hold an 8x10 photo. To do that, I'll add a cube, set its X dimension to 8 inches, and its Y dimension to 10 inches. I'll grab my frame and bring it up to the corner. Now that I have that there, I'll go into edit mode, grab these bottom ones, and then pull them down. You'll notice I don't use the scaling command because I want my profile curve to stay the same size. I just need to extend the piece of wood. I'll zoom into this corner and line this up. I'll do the same on the top. Now that I've got those two sides done, I'm going to select all, do a Shift D to duplicate, rotate 180 degrees. I'll line this up approximately and zoom into one of the two corners. Next, I'll take the cube that I used for sizing and shrink it down. And looking underneath, I'm going to extend it just a little bit so it goes beyond this lip. And then lastly, I'm going to delete the bottom of this cube, leaving just a single plane to house my picture. One other thing you may want to do is UV unwrap all of your frame. I've found the easiest way to do that is to grab the edges in each corner, right-click, and mark seam. Then, looking from the bottom, select these 4 edges underneath and also mark those as seam. Now, if I go into UV editing mode, select all, press U to unwrap, and do an unwrap, you'll see that I get the frame edges unwrapped pretty well. I'm going to select my image plane, select my frame, and join those together. Then, with my image plane selected, I'll press U and project from view. This is going to keep my UV unwrapping proportional to what I have on the screen, and I can spread that out. Now we would simply need to assign a material to our picture. I'll add a frame texture that's kind of glossy, and then I'll add a photo texture. Going into my model, with the image part selected, I'll assign that photo texture. Now if I go to my shading menu, with my principled BSDF selected, as long as I'm using the Node Wrangler plugin, I can press Ctrl T and select an image. And I'll adjust the UV of the image section to my liking. Now that I have that created, I can go ahead and mark it as an asset. Say I add a cube and go to my asset browser. You'll notice when I add these to my cube, the bottom of the frame is sticking to the side of the cube. That's not what we want. The reason is because my object is actually rotated. If I bring up my end panel, you'll see that it has a 90-degree X rotation and a negative 180-degree Z rotation. But if I press Ctrl A and apply rotation, those all go to 0. And now, when I place my image on my cube, it goes on correctly. And so there we are, a fairly decent looking photo frame. Of course, you can take this as far as you want and make your own library of photo frames. And like I said before, if you want to visit my Gumroad page, I have a library of 189 of these already created. That's 17 different frames in 11 different sizes each. So you can just drag them into your scene and go from there. Either way, I hope this inspires you to make something awesome. And until next time, I'll catch you later.